Filing your taxes for the first time? Don't worry, I'll help make it as easy as 1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome to Practical Personal Finance, where you get the information you need to understand and succeed with money. I'm Andrew Shear, and with tax season coming up soon, you may be a little apprehensive about filing your tax returns, especially if you've never done it before. But there's no need to fear. Today, I'm going to guide you through the process of filing your tax return, from gathering the necessary documents, to filling out the forms, to submitting everything and hopefully receiving a small refund. Make sure you stick around until the very end when you'll learn about one of the biggest mistakes that first-time filers make. If that all sounds great, then give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new here, click that red subscribe button. You're about to learn something new about money. Before we get into the technical steps of how to file your tax return, I think it's important to understand what your tax return actually represents. Throughout the year, from January 1st until December 31st, most Americans are working and earning an income. And as we all know, whenever you make money, good old Uncle Sam is going to want his share in the form of taxes. Now, those taxes might get taken out of your paycheck if you're what's called a W-2 employee. Or you might be responsible for paying them yourself every 3 months if you're classified as an independent contractor. There are a lot of people picking up gig work as independent contractors these days. So to help you understand this crucial difference, I asked Tiffany McMillan, a certified public accountant from Northern Virginia, to explain it further.
The difference is when you're a W-2 employee, your employer takes out any taxes or estimated taxes that you might potentially owe to the IRS. That would include your federal income tax that you normally file on your tax return, but it also includes Social Security and Medicare. And as a W-2 employee, there's no additional filing that you have to do for Social Security and Medicare. It's already handled through your employer. But once you become an independent contractor, like with the jobs that you mentioned with DoorDash and Uber, there is no employer. You are both employee and employer, and you're required to handle the Social Security and Medicare part. All of that is done on your final tax return at the end of the year, but it does involve a little more tax planning and knowledge to make sure that you're paying in the right amount of taxes so that you don't get a big tax bill at the end of the year.
No matter what your employment situation is, the taxes you pay throughout the year are just an estimate of the amount of taxes you'll owe when everything's said and done. So when you fill out your tax return, what you're doing is calculating the amount of tax you actually owed based on your income and your situation, and then settling up with Uncle Sam. If you paid too little throughout the year, you'll end up owing the IRS and having to make a lump sum payment. But if you paid too much, you'll end up getting a tax refund. So it's not like you're getting lucky if you get a big tax refund. It just means you've overpaid the IRS throughout the previous year, and now they're giving you that money back. Step 1 in filing your tax return is gathering the appropriate documents. If you're a W-2 employee, the company you worked for will send you a copy of your W-2 form. If you're an independent contractor, the company you worked for will send you a copy of your 1099 form. If you worked multiple jobs, you will get multiple forms. These forms might be emailed to you, or they might be sent in the regular mail. So you want to make sure any companies you worked for in the past year have your current email address and your current mailing address. The deadline for companies to send out these forms is January 31st. If it's emailed, you should have it by that date. If it's sent in the regular mail, give it another week or so to get to you. In addition to your W-2 and 1099 forms, you may also get forms from mortgage lenders, student loan servicers, and your bank around the same time. Keep all of these forms handy for the next step. Step 2 in filing your tax return is filling out the paperwork, and there are 3 ways of doing it. You can download the tax return forms directly from the IRS website and fill them out by hand, and then mail them in. You can use software to fill in the forms and then file them electronically for you. Or you can hire a professional tax preparer or CPA to prepare and file your taxes for you. If it's your first time doing your taxes, I probably wouldn't recommend printing the forms and filling them in yourself. I've done it once before, and I'll be honest, for someone who isn't getting paid to fill out these forms all day, it was very tedious and somewhat confusing. Plus, I was really worried about screwing up and having to deal with the IRS later. So if you ask me, the choice really becomes using tax preparation software versus hiring a professional. If you go with the software, you can expect the cost to be very minimal, and in many cases, it'll be completely free, at least for your federal tax return. Now, if you live in a place with state income tax, that's another tax return you'll need to prepare. That one might cost you a couple bucks depending on what software you go with. The software will ask you some basic questions about your life situation and all those forms you gathered in step 1, and it will use the information you provide to fill in the blanks on your tax return forms. Here's Tiffany with what you can expect if you're working with a tax pro.
Generally, what you'll want to do is have all of your tax documents with you or ready once you're ready to contact a professional. You can go to them ahead of time just to find out the particulars of their process, but more or less you're going to have all of those documents. You may have to sign an agreement with them just outlining what their process is or outlining what their responsibilities are, just so that you're both on the same page. A lot of CPAs or professionals will have what's called an engagement letter for you to sign. Nothing like a contract where you're signing your life away, just to make sure there's a written understanding of what you should expect from them. Most accountants will have your tax returns done fairly quickly within 1 to 2 weeks, and they may ask you questions if they need additional details, particularly if you're a first-time client, but those will generally be questions that you can easily answer.
Here's my 2 cents. If you've got a relatively simple tax situation without any self-employment income, give it a shot with the software. Even if it's your first time doing your taxes, the software can make it really simple and straightforward. If you're a little apprehensive, you can always print out your tax return from the software once it's all filled in and bring it to a tax professional to check it over for you. Just explain how it's your first time and you wanted an experienced set of eyes to make sure you did everything right. Most tax pros would be willing to give it a once-over for you for a small fee, or you might even get lucky and find one who won't even charge you. If you try the software and you just get overwhelmed or you're just uncomfortable, then go to a tax professional. Just don't make the mistake of waiting until April to do it. You want to get in before the rush. The final step in filing your taxes is submitting your forms and settling up. Once you're satisfied with how your tax return forms have been filled out, you'll sign your name at the bottom, and then you'll either mail them to the IRS or have them filed electronically by your tax software or your tax professional. All that's left to do is get your refund or pay your tax bill.
You'll know that you're getting a tax refund when you file your tax return. So as you go through that process, whether that be you self-preparing them with an online tax software or going to a professional like myself, during that process, you'll be notified whether you're getting a tax refund or you're expected to owe. If you're getting a refund, what I like to advise clients to do is to provide your banking information on the tax return to get the fastest delivery possible of that refund. So if you provide your bank information, the refund will go directly to your bank account.
Generally, your tax refund will take 2 or 3 weeks to be deposited into your bank account. If you owe the IRS, you'll need to send them a check or pay online through their website. It's important to note that if you need to issue a payment to the IRS, the deadline for doing so is April 15th. You may have heard of filing for an extension on your taxes, but an extension only gives you more time to submit the paperwork we just talked about. It does not grant you extra time to pay up if you owe anything. Oh, and one more thing. Before you get to work on your tax returns, Tiffany's got one more tip that could save you a lot of time and frustration.
A lot of clients that I get that are just filing for the first time are usually people that are transitioning from being a dependent on their parents' taxes to now filing themselves. So you just want to have that conversation with your parents to make sure that you're both on the same page as to how you'll be filing. You do have the option of, because you're a dependent, you do have the option of remaining on their taxes, especially if you've been in school for half the year, or filing on your own. So it really would just depend on the amount of income that you made and what the best strategy is for the family overall. If you do decide that it's better for you to file yourself, have that conversation with your parents to let them know, to make sure they no longer claim you. That is a big thing that I see a lot with first-time clients. We have an issue with the parents already filed and now they're claimed as a child, and we have to go through extra steps in order to correct that and file as an adult.
I want to thank my good friend Tiffany McMillan for taking the time to answer my questions about taxes. If it is truly your first time filing taxes, I highly recommend listening to our entire 15-minute conversation on the Practical Personal Finance podcast. It's available right now wherever you get your podcasts. Look for episode number 13. And if you'd like to connect with Tiffany to ask her any further questions or hire her as your CPA, visit her website at www.moneytaxesandyou.com. Link is down below. What method will you use to file your taxes? Let me know in the comments. If you're new to taxes and enjoyed this video, click right here to learn about how tax brackets work. And if you're not already a PPF subscriber, click right here to hop on board. As always, thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Scheer, and I'll see you next time.